I walked into spin class and saw the girl in front of me, FaceTiming my boyfriend of 4 years, while he whispered, "Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful." When I confronted him, he rolled his eyes and said, "You're acting like this is some crime." "It's just dating," I stayed silent. That was 1 month ago. Yesterday, he sat in court in an orange jumpsuit while the judge read guilty on every count. I was halfway through Saturday morning spin at Cycle Soul, clenching to keep my tampon inside of me, when I noticed the blonde girl in front of me FaceTiming my boyfriend of 4 years. "Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful," he whispered. I vomited in my mouth. "I can't believe we've been dating for 3 months already," she responded. Like, hello? Brittany, our instructor who always wore the cutest sets, saw me crying and immediately cut her playlist. "Hey hun, are you doing okay?" "That's my man." I pointed at the screen where Blake was now shirtless making breakfast. The entire studio went silent. 25 girls in coordinating workout sets just staring. The blonde girl immediately hung up and turned around. "Wait girl, I'm so sorry, I swear I didn't know." Every single girl started climbing off their bikes. Someone handed me a liquid IV. Someone else had tissues, the good ones with lotion. Another girl was already fixing my mascara with her emergency makeup kit. 4 years? Natalie shrieked. "This absolute trash man has been with her for 4 years." The blonde, Isabella, looked like she was gonna throw up her green juice. "I met him on Bumble, and he said he just got out of something casual." Casual? The entire room erupted. They found his Instagram and followed in seconds. The most recent photo was literally a picture of us holding hands by the beach with the caption, LOML. This absolute queen with sleeve tattoos and perfect winged liner just said, "Call his sister." Speaker. Now. My hands were shaking as I found Ellie's contact. She spoke first. "Hey babe, how's spin? Did you try that new protein smoothie place after?" "Ellie," my voice cracked. "Blake's FaceTiming another girl. They've been together for 3 months." The silence was louder than when a boy starts showing you his camera roll on the first date. "Girl, don't play. Are you being fucking for real right now?" I turned on FaceTime and showed myself crying my eyes out. And that's when she started shouting, "I'm getting my mom and we're coming right now, don't fucking move." She hung up and I just stared at my phone. Like, okay, Ellie kinda ate. "Oh, this is about to be good," someone whispered. Isabella and I were clutching each other's hands, neither of us blaming each other. The entire class was hyping me up and telling me I deserve better. The teenager in the corner came up to me and said, "Girl, even while crying, your skin is glowing. Let that crusty man go back to picking girls who are actually in his league." The class leader, Bethany, shouted, "Your hot girl era starts now." Even the quiet girl said, "Girl, you were really gonna give that receding hairline your best years?" That one made me laugh. And y'all, when that door flew open, it was like Real Housewives met Crazy Rich Asians. Ellie strutted in with her Balenciaga bag. Mrs. Leek in her Saturday Costco fit, but make it fashion. Her Aunt Linda, who I didn't even know was coming, had her Cartier sunglasses on indoors. "Where is she?" Mrs. Leek's voice could have cut diamonds. She saw me, saw Isabella. I watched her perfectly microbladed brows go through the 5 stages of grief in real time. "Ellie, call your brother. Now." "Mom, maybe we should." "Now." The way Ellie's acrylics clicked on her phone screen was aggressive. "What?" Blake's annoyed voice came through the speaker. "Get your A down to Cycle Soul on 85th. Emergency, now." "I'm busy making—" "I said now, Blake!" The studio was silent. You could hear everyone's aura rings tracking their elevated heart rates. 15 minutes later, this man walks in wearing ratty sweats and slides. With socks. The audacity. The first thing he saw was the wall of angry women in coordinating sets. His mom, his sister, his aunt, me with my puffy eyes. Isabella looked like a Victoria's Secret angel who'd been personally victimized. "Mom, I can explain dash. SLAP. Mrs. Leek's hand slapped his face so loudly, I swear it felt like the walls were vibrating. Like, okay, period. 4 years! I've been Pinterest planning your wedding for 4 years. The entire class was screaming. Multiple phones out. "This beautiful girl!" She pointed at Isabella. "You lied to her too!" Ellie had her phone in his face. "Say hi to the family group chat." Blake looked around desperately. 25 girls in designer athletic wear ready to end him. Then, Mrs. Leek grabbed his ear like he was 5 years old and late for soccer practice. "You're coming home." Getting her things, then her things, then you're moving back to your anime poster room. "Mom, I'm 25. 25 and stupid." She literally dragged him out. Dragged. Ellie followed, still filming, her hokas squeaking on the floor. Aunt Linda stayed behind, hugged us both with her Hermes bracelet jangling. He gets it from his father's side. Weak genes. After they left, the studio went wild. Isabella and I finished class together and exchanged numbers. I went home feeling weirdly good about myself. Like free. Then at 2 a.m., my phone exploded. Texts, voice notes, missed calls, all from Blake. "You ruined my life! My mom took my car! I was getting so close to fucking her, you psycho bitch!" The voice notes were worse. Screaming, crying, saying he'd destroy me. I didn't respond, just screenshotted everything. Because Blake had just started at that fancy finance firm. Always bragging about his boss being some badass woman. I found her on LinkedIn, sent everything. Subject line, "Your new analyst, Blake Leek." My phone started buzzing at 2:15 a.m. and wouldn't stop. The screen lit up with notification after notification from Blake. 47 texts came through in the first 10 minutes. 23 voice notes followed right after. Each message got worse than the last one. I played one voice note and heard him screaming about how his boss would understand this was just relationship drama. His voice sounded completely unhinged. I grabbed my laptop and started saving everything to Google Drive, iCloud, and Dropbox. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I created folder after folder. By 8 a.m., I hadn't slept at all. Screenshots covered my entire bed, sorted by date and time. My best friend Mia showed up with iced coffee and helped me transcribe every single voice note. She kept shaking her head as she typed out the threats. We highlighted the worst parts with yellow marker, created a timeline on poster board like we were solving a crime. Mia looked at me and said this wasn't just a breakup anymore. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text from Ellie saying her mom had taken Blake's car keys and credit cards. She said he was having a complete meltdown and that Isabella had reached out wanting to meet both of us. My stomach felt like it was full of rocks. At 4 p.m., Isabella and I sat across from each other at a small coffee shop in Brooklyn. She pulled out her phone and showed me their entire text history. Blake had told her I was clingy and that we'd been broken up for months. She had screenshots of him planning to introduce her to his family next week. We compared calendars and found out he was with her during my birthday dinner 2 weeks ago. The coffee shop door slammed open at 6 p.m. and Blake stood there staring at us. The barista immediately reached for her phone. Blake started yelling about us comparing notes like some conspiracy. He pointed at Isabella and told her she was just a side thing. Isabella stood up and threw her entire iced latte right in his face. Coffee dripped down his shirt as he stood there shocked. Security showed up within minutes and grabbed Blake's arms. The NYPD arrived 15 minutes later and took statements from everyone in the shop. Blake kept insisting it was just a relationship thing, but multiple customers described his aggressive behavior. The officers gave him an official warning about harassment and walked him out to their car. One officer pulled me aside and quietly suggested I should think about getting a restraining order. Back at my apartment at 9 p.m., I tried to eat leftover Thai food but couldn't taste anything. My phone showed over 200 notifications from the Cycle Soul group chat. Someone had tagged Blake's boss in the LinkedIn post I'd made. Another girl found his Hinge profile showing he'd been active yesterday. The internet was doing what the internet does best. Sunday morning, I woke up to Ellie calling and her voice sounded panicked. She told me Blake had tried to take their mom's car at 3 a.m. to come to my apartment. Her dad had to physically hold him back from leaving. They were taking him to urgent care for a psych evaluation. My whole body felt cold hearing this. Isabella came over Sunday afternoon with her laptop and we started searching dating apps. We found 3 more women Blake had been talking to in the last month alone. One girl thought they were exclusive. Another had a date planned with him for that night. We made a group chat and called it Blake's Victims Club, which made us laugh even though nothing was funny. My phone rang at 4 p.m. showing an unknown number. Blake's boss, Sandra Smith, introduced herself and said she'd received my email. She mentioned Blake had sent her 47 emails since yesterday claiming I was trying to destroy his life. Her voice stayed professional, but I could hear the concern. She asked if I could send her all the threatening messages immediately. I grabbed my laptop and forwarded everything to Sandra while still on the phone with her. The screenshots, the voice notes where Blake screamed about destroying me, the texts calling me every name you could think of. Sandra stayed quiet as her email dinged with each attachment. Then she said this was now a workplace security issue, and told me not to contact Blake at all because they were handling it internally. After we hung up, I just sat there staring at my phone. Sunday night, my apartment felt wrong. Every little noise from the hallway made me jump. The ice maker in the fridge sounded like someone trying the door handle. I checked the locks 3 times, then remembered Blake still had a key from when he'd water my plants during my work trips. Mia came over with her overnight bag without me even asking. She sat up on my couch with her laptop, and we both pretended she was just there to binge Netflix. We didn't talk about why she brought her pepper spray and baseball bat. Monday morning at 7, my phone rang with building security saying Blake was in the lobby demanding to be let up. They sent me the security camera link and I watched him pacing by the front desk. The timestamp showed he'd tried using his old key at 2 in the morning, then again at 4, and now he was back. 2 police officers showed up on the feed and Blake started gesturing wildly. I could see him mouthing that he just needed to get his things. The officers pointed at something off camera, and then Blake stormed out. My phone buzzed with an email from Sandra at 9 saying Blake had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. She asked if I could do a video interview with their security team at noon. Isabella texted that they'd contacted her too. The corporate security guy on the video call looked like he investigated actual crimes, not just workplace stuff. He asked about previous incidents, any patterns of behavior, whether Blake had mentioned work stuff at home. I mentioned how Blake always bragged about having access to confidential client information, how he'd show me spreadsheets he shouldn't have had on his personal laptop. The security guy's face changed and he started typing really fast. He asked if Blake ever shared specific client details. At 2 that afternoon, Ellie called me crying. She said the psychiatric evaluation showed Blake had something called stress-induced adjustment disorder. They wanted him to do outpatient therapy, and Mrs. Leek was making him go or kicking him out. I felt bad for Ellie because she didn't ask for any of this drama with her brother. Monday evening, I tried to do normal stuff like meal prep and laundry but kept checking my phone. The Blake's Victims chat had grown to 7 women. Everyone was sharing similar stories about how he'd been super romantic at first, promised them everything, then turned nasty when they asked questions. Tuesday morning at 10, my phone lit up with an Instagram notification from an account with no profile picture. Blake had made a fake account to message me that I'd ruined everything, including his career and family and life. He said this wasn't over. I screenshotted it immediately. Within an hour, he'd messaged all 7 women in our group chat from different fake accounts with different threats. I went to the courthouse at 11:30 to file for a restraining order. The clerk looked at my evidence binder, which was now 3 inches thick with printed screenshots, and said emergency orders could be issued same day if there was immediate danger. She fast-tracked my paperwork and said I had one of the most documented cases she'd ever seen. Tuesday afternoon, I sat in the police precinct waiting room until a detective called me back. She spread out all my evidence on her desk and said the fake accounts, plus the workplace threats, plus him trying to get into my building was textbook stalking behavior. She explained that criminal harassment charges needed a pattern which Blake had definitely established with all his messages and attempts to contact me. She started typing up the report while I sat there shaking, and that's when my phone rang with Mrs. Leake's number lighting up the screen. I picked up and heard her crying harder than I'd ever heard anyone cry before. She was trying to talk but kept choking on her words until finally she managed to get out that she'd found these notebooks in Blake's room while packing his stuff. Pages and pages of notes about every girl he'd dated with ratings and strategies and manipulation tactics written out like some sick game plan. She read me parts where he'd written about me, stuff like, plays hard to get but responds to jealousy tactics, and career-focused, use marriage, hints to secure commitment, and I felt my stomach turn. The detective heard everything on speaker and immediately asked Mrs. Leake to bring the journals to the station as evidence. After I left the precinct, I couldn't go home, so Isabella picked me up and we went to her place with 2 bottles of wine. We sat on her couch going through his Instagram together and laughing at how basic he actually was. Like this man really thought having TSA pre-check made him special. She kept making jokes about his 3 button-downs he rotated every week and how his biggest accomplishment was memorizing coffee orders to seem thoughtful. We double-checked her locks 3 times that night and put a chair against the door just in case. The next morning, Sandra Williams from Blake's company called while I was still at Isabella's place. She said their IT department found something bad when they did their investigation, that Blake had been downloading client files he wasn't supposed to have access to. She said the FBI would probably contact me about our relationship timeline since this was now federal territory with financial crimes involved. 2 hours later, I was at the courthouse for the emergency restraining order hearing the detective had set up. The judge looked at all the evidence, the fake accounts, the threats, the journals his mom brought, and granted it immediately. Blake couldn't come within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace, and he couldn't contact me through anyone else either. The court officer handed me the paperwork, and I thought maybe now I could breathe again. But 3 hours later, Brittany was calling me screaming that Blake was at Cycle Soul pounding on the glass doors during the lunch class. She'd locked everyone inside and called 911 while the whole class formed a wall at the entrance. I could hear him yelling in the background about misunderstandings and needing to explain while 20 women in matching sets stood guard. The cops showed up fast and arrested him right there in front of everyone for violating the restraining order. Ellie texted me that their parents weren't bailing him out this time, and maybe a night in jail would teach him something. The detective called to confirm he was being held until his hearing tomorrow. That night, I tried to sleep but kept seeing him pounding on that glass every time I closed my eyes. My roommate made me tea and we watched trash TV, but I couldn't focus on anything. My phone stayed face down on the coffee table because I couldn't handle seeing any more notifications about everything that was happening. Thursday morning at 8, the doorbell rang and 2 FBI agents with badges were standing there asking to come in. They sat at my kitchen table with their notebooks out asking about Blake's work conversations and if he ever mentioned client names or showed me any documents. The interview went on for 3 hours with them writing down everything about our relationship timeline and when he started acting weird. That afternoon, Isabella sent our group chat a screenshot of the local news article about Blake with the headline, "Finance Bros Meltdown Goes Viral After Spin Class Confrontation," and security footage of his mom dragging him out. His LinkedIn was gone, but people had already screenshotted everything, and it was spreading everywhere. Thursday evening, Mrs. Leake knocked on my door holding a box of my stuff from Blake's room, including jewelry I thought was gone forever, and my old laptop I'd left there months ago. She stood in my doorway looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, and said she was sorry for not seeing what was happening sooner. We both started crying and hugged while she kept saying mothers always know, but make excuses anyway. But Friday morning, my phone buzzed with a court notification that Blake's arraignment was happening over video link from jail. I watched on my laptop as he appeared on screen in an orange jumpsuit looking nothing like the guy who used to make me feel small. His court-appointed lawyer asked for bail, but the judge shut it down fast, saying Blake had already violated the emergency order within hours. Blake's face went red and he started yelling until they muted his mic, and the judge said bail denied due to escalating behavior patterns. Friday afternoon, Sandra Brown from Blake's company emailed me saying they'd fired him for cause after finding out he'd accessed company data without permission. She attached a formal letter saying the company would cooperate with any legal proceedings and wished me well. I forwarded everything to the detective who'd been assigned to my case. That evening, I ordered Vietnamese food for the first time in forever and sat there staring at the pho, realizing I didn't even know if I liked it. Blake always ordered for us and insisted this place was the best, but the broth tasted wrong to me. Everything in my apartment felt like someone else's choices, from the throw pillows he picked to the Netflix shows in my continue watching list. Saturday morning, my phone rang, and it was Amy from the Spin Class group chat crying so hard I could barely understand her. Blake had somehow contacted her ex-boyfriend and told him she was part of some conspiracy to destroy men. Her ex believed Blake and was now threatening to take her back to court over custody of their daughter. Amy was panicking because she couldn't afford another custody battle, and her ex was using Blake's lies as ammunition. Isabella immediately set up an emergency meeting at her apartment that afternoon with 5 of us from the group. We pooled our money and hired Patricia Huang, who specialized in cyber harassment and stalking cases. Patricia looked at all our evidence and said Blake targeting multiple victims actually made each case stronger legally. She started documenting everything while we sat on Isabella's white couch drinking wine and realizing how deep this went. Saturday evening, Ellie came to my place with 2 bottles of wine and completely broke down sobbing. She'd been going through old family files and found out Blake did this exact same thing in college to his ex-girlfriend. The girl had to transfer schools, and Ellie's parents paid her family money to keep quiet about it. Ellie kept apologizing and saying she had no idea it was this bad, but the pattern went back years. Sunday morning, Patricia filed a civil suit on behalf of all 7 of us for harassment and emotional distress. She also petitioned for a broader protective order that would legally prevent Blake from contacting any of us ever again. She sent me copies of everything and said this would make it impossible for him to keep doing this to people. Sunday afternoon, my phone rang from an unknown number, and when I answered, it was Blake's father screaming at me. He said I destroyed his family and his son was in jail because of my vindictive lies. I hit record on my phone as he kept going, saying Blake was planning to propose next month and the ring was in his dresser. I didn't say anything, just let him rant about how I'd ruined Blake's life and career over nothing. Sunday evening, I texted Ellie about the ring story, and she went to check Blake's room at their parents' house. 20 minutes later, she sent me a photo of a ring box with a $50 cubic zirconia from Amazon. The order confirmation email on Blake's laptop showed he'd bought it last week, the day after the spin class incident. She texted that he really thought he could manipulate his way out of this with a fake proposal. Monday morning, I walked into work feeling like everyone was staring at me, even though they probably weren't. My manager pulled me into her office and said to take whatever time I needed for court stuff. She also told me building security had Blake's photo at every entrance, and I was safe there. Walking back to my desk, I started crying because these small kindnesses from people felt huge after everything. That afternoon, Isabella texted me a bunch of screenshots she'd been digging up all weekend. Blake had been charging everything to his company card, including his Hinge Premium and Bumble Boost subscriptions, plus dinners at places I'd never even heard of. She'd matched receipts to his Instagram posts and found at least 12 different girls he'd taken to the same steakhouse we went to for our anniversary. My phone buzzed with a text from Sandra Davis, saying this was now an embezzlement investigation too, and thanking me for starting this whole chain of discovery. Tuesday morning, Patricia called to tell me the criminal harassment trial was set for 3 months out, which she said was actually really fast because of him violating the restraining order. Blake's lawyer tried for bail again, but the judge shut it down immediately since he'd already proven he couldn't follow court orders. That evening, I finally went to therapy and sat on this brown leather couch that squeaked every time I moved. I told the therapist I didn't know who I was without this relationship, even though it was toxic, and she said 4 years was a long time to lose yourself, and we'd work on finding me again. Wednesday, Amy forwarded me an email from some girl who went to college with Blake and saw everything on the news. This girl had kept every text and email from 2019 showing the exact same pattern where he love-bombed her, then tried to cut her off from friends, then threatened her when she tried to leave. Patricia added all of it to our case file and said it showed a clear pattern of behavior. Thursday morning, the court released Blake's jailhouse calls to his parents, and in one recording, he was yelling about needing them to go to my apartment and get his grandfather's watch back. He said he didn't care about the restraining order because it was his property, but his parents refused, and you could hear how mad he still was about everything. That afternoon, I got a call from Patricia saying the FBI Financial Crimes Unit confirmed Blake had accessed insider information on 3 major mergers, and they were checking if he'd traded on it. Every new thing that came out made his whole successful finance guy image fall apart more and more. Thursday evening, I finally went back to spin class for the first time since everything happened. Brittany stopped the music when I walked in and dedicated a song to their survivor sister, while all 25 women were wearing matching tanks that said Blake's victims that Natalie had made. I cried through the entire cool down while everyone hugged me and told me how strong I was. Friday, Patricia filed for expedited discovery in the civil case, asking for Blake's financial records and phone records and access to all his dating profiles. The judge granted it right away, saying there was credible evidence of ongoing harassment affecting multiple plaintiffs, which meant Blake was screwed. Saturday, Mrs. Leek asked me to get coffee, and when we sat down, she told me quietly that she was divorcing Blake's father. She said finding out they'd paid off that college girl, and knowing what Blake was capable of, meant she couldn't forgive him, and she and Ellie were moving in with her sister. Another family destroyed by his actions, and I felt bad even though none of this was my fault. Sunday morning, my phone started blowing up because Blake had somehow gotten a contraband phone in jail and posted a 20-minute YouTube video called How Women Conspire to Destroy Successful Men. He named all of us and shared private photos and listed where we worked before Patricia got it taken down after 10,000 views. Monday morning, Patricia called at 6 a.m., telling me to get to the courthouse immediately because the judge had seen the video and was beyond pissed. I threw on my court clothes and ran to catch the subway while my hands shook so bad I could barely hold my phone. The courtroom was packed with reporters and every woman from our support group had shown up in solidarity. Blake appeared on the video screen from jail looking like he hadn't slept in days with dark circles under his eyes and his orange jumpsuit wrinkled. The judge started yelling before anyone else could speak and said Blake had shown complete disregard for court orders and the safety of his victims. She revoked his bail indefinitely and added criminal charges for witness intimidation, while Blake's lawyer kept trying to object, but the judge just kept cutting him off. Patricia squeezed my hand as we watched Blake's face go white when he realized he wasn't getting out anytime soon. That afternoon, my phone started going crazy with notifications because the video had gone viral before getting deleted, and hundreds of women were sharing their own stories with the hashtag Blake's Victims Club. Some documentary filmmaker emailed Patricia wanting to cover the whole case, but we said no for now, even though it felt good knowing so many women had our backs. Tuesday, I had to walk past our old favorite Italian place to get to therapy, and felt absolutely nothing, which seemed like progress maybe. The hostess recognized me and waved me over, asking where Blake was since she hadn't seen us in forever. I told her we broke up, and she actually smiled and said, "Good for you, honey," because he was always so rude to the waitstaff and never tipped properly. Wednesday, Isabella called me screaming because she found Blake's secret Instagram account where he had been rating women from dating apps in our spin class with detailed notes about manipulation strategies. My entry made me want to throw up because it said 7 out of 10 insecure about career easy to control with intermittent affection. Isabella's said 8 out of 10 daddy issues responds well to love bombing, and there were dozens more with disgusting notes about how to manipulate each woman. We screenshotted everything and sent it to Patricia, who immediately forwarded it to the prosecutor. Thursday was group therapy with all the other women Blake had hurt, and we were all at different stages of being mad and trying to heal. Amy's custody battle finally got resolved in her favor after her ex realized Blake had been lying to him too about everything. She said the silver lining was finding out how many people actually supported us once they knew the truth. Friday marked exactly 1 month since the spin class incident, and depositions started for the civil case. Blake appeared on video from jail in his orange jumpsuit, while his lawyer kept objecting to every single question. When the prosecutor asked about the Instagram rating account, Blake actually smirked and said it wasn't illegal to have opinions about women, which made everyone in the room gasp. Saturday, the finance firm sent out a press release announcing an internal review of their hiring practices after discovering Blake had lied about basically everything on his resume. His summa cum laude was actually a 2.3 GPA, and his internship at Goldman Sachs was just a 2-week temp job in their mailroom. Sunday afternoon, I was at the grocery store when some guy I barely knew from college approached me saying Blake's dad wanted to talk to me. He offered me $50,000 cash to drop all the charges, and when I said no, he threatened that I didn't know what their family was capable of. I recorded the whole thing on my phone and sent it straight to Patricia, who filed witness tampering charges that same day. Monday, the judge was even more pissed than before, and warned the entire Leak family that any contact would result in additional charges. Ellie texted me later apologizing for her dad, and saying she had cut him off too because she couldn't believe what her family had become. Tuesday evening, I realized I was finally sleeping without checking the locks 10 times, but still had dreams about Blake showing up at my door. My therapist reminded me that healing wasn't linear, and trauma responses take time to fade, which made sense but still sucked. Wednesday morning, Patricia called with news that made my jaw drop. The forensic accountant she hired found something huge in Blake's financial records during discovery. Blake owed $45,000 across 12 credit cards. The statements showed designer clothes from Nordstrom and Saks, bottle service receipts from clubs every weekend, $500 dinners at restaurants I'd never even heard of. The worst part was seeing different women's names on receipts from the same weekends. He'd take me to dinner Friday, then another girl Saturday. Thursday, Isabella and I met for coffee, and she's become one of my closest friends now. We were joking about starting a podcast when she got serious. She told me she knew something was off when Blake said all his exes were crazy. Classic red flag, but she fell for it anyway. Friday morning changed everything when Patricia called screaming that we needed to meet immediately. The FBI had just charged Blake with insider trading. He made $200,000 using stolen client data from his firm. Federal crimes meant 20 years in prison potentially. His lawyer was already begging for a plea deal. Saturday, we all met at Patricia's office to discuss the offer. Blake would plead guilty and serve 3 to 5 years if we dropped our civil suits. Patricia explained criminal and civil cases were totally separate. We could pursue both, and we unanimously refused his deal. Sunday, I was at brunch when the manager rushed over saying someone was taking photos of me. The guy admitted he was a private investigator hired by Blake's father. Police arrested him for harassment and added witness tampering charges to Blake's case. Monday morning, my boss called me into her office and I thought I was in trouble. Instead, she promoted me for showing exceptional judgment during this whole mess. It felt good having something positive that had nothing to do with Blake. Tuesday, the prosecutor called with disturbing news from Blake's recorded jail calls. He told another inmate he was planning to handle me when he got out. The recording had him describing violent fantasies in detail. They immediately upgraded charges to include criminal threats. Wednesday night, Ellie asked me to dinner and we talked for hours. She's in therapy now, processing how her family enabled Blake for years. She started crying, saying they blamed every girlfriend who left. They made excuses for every job he lost. She apologized for not protecting me from him. Thursday, the criminal harassment trial finally started. Blake looked terrible in his orange jumpsuit with none of his old confidence. The prosecutor played his threatening voice notes during opening statements. Several jurors physically pulled back, hearing the pure hate in his voice. Friday, I testified for 4 straight hours about our relationship. I detailed finding out about his cheating and all the harassment that followed. Blake's lawyer tried making me look scorned and vindictive, but the evidence was too strong with all those texts and recordings. Monday morning, Isabella took the stand wearing a simple navy dress, and her hands were shaking so bad she needed both hands to hold the water glass. She walked the jury through meeting Blake on Bumble, and how he told her he'd been single for months after ending things with someone casual. The prosecutor pulled up screenshots of their messages where Blake called her his soulmate after 2 weeks and said he'd never felt this way before. Then came the Instagram account where Blake and his finance bros rated women they matched with on dating apps using a point system. Blake's lawyer jumped up objecting, but the judge said it showed a pattern and allowed it as evidence. Tuesday was even worse because 5 other women testified through video screens, since they were too scared to be in the same room as Blake. Each one told the same story about how Blake love-bombed them at first, then exploded when they asked basic questions about his life. One woman from Boston showed texts where Blake threatened to leak her photos after she broke up with him. Another from Philadelphia had recordings of Blake screaming at her voicemail 50 times in one night when she didn't answer his calls. The jury members kept writing notes and looking over at Blake, who sat there in his cheap suit trying to look innocent. Wednesday. Blake's lawyer finally put him on the stand, even though you could tell the lawyer didn't want to. Blake sat there claiming we all got together to destroy him because we were jealous of his success at the finance firm. The prosecutor showed him screenshot after screenshot of his threatening messages, and Blake kept saying we took everything out of context. Thursday was when everything fell apart because during cross-examination, Blake started yelling that we should be grateful someone like him even looked at us. The judge banged her gavel and threatened to hold him in contempt if he didn't control himself. But Blake kept going. He pointed at me and screamed that I was nothing before him and would be nothing after him. The jury saw exactly who he really was when the mask finally came off completely. Friday, his character witnesses showed up, and it was just his dad who looked angry at everyone and kept calling us gold diggers. His college friend admitted on the stand that he hadn't talked to Blake in 2 years because Blake owed him money. Meanwhile, the prosecutor had 23 witnesses ready to testify about Blake's harassment, including my coworkers who saw him show up at my office. Monday morning, the prosecutor gave closing arguments laying out every piece of evidence in a timeline showing how Blake's behavior got worse and worse. Blake stared at me the entire time with this look that made my skin crawl while the prosecutor explained this wasn't about relationships. Tuesday waiting for the verdict was the worst because I couldn't eat anything and kept throwing up from anxiety. Isabella and the other women texted our group chat constantly, and Isabella sent funny TikToks trying to make us feel better. We were all terrified the jury would somehow let him walk free even with all the evidence we had against him. Wednesday afternoon, the bailiff called us back and my legs felt like jelly walking into that courtroom. The judge asked if the jury reached a verdict and the foreman stood up holding the paper with shaking hands. Guilty on all counts, including criminal harassment and stalking and violating restraining orders and witness intimidation and criminal threats. Blake's face went completely white and his dad stormed out yelling about appeals and how this was all a setup. Thursday, the judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks and ordered Blake to get a psychological evaluation before then. She also said we could submit victim impact statements if we wanted to address the court about how this affected us. Friday, I sat at my kitchen table trying to write my victim impact statement but kept starting over. How do you explain 4 years of slowly losing yourself to someone who made you feel worthless? I focused on writing about how he stole my sense of safety and my ability to trust people. Saturday morning, the documentary filmmaker knocked on my door with a different energy than before. This time, she brought coffee and sat on my couch while we talked about doing this right. She wanted our real story, not some made-up drama version. The working title was Spin When Love Bombing Explodes, and Brittany had already agreed to be interviewed. We signed papers and scheduled filming for next week. Monday morning, my phone blew up with texts from everyone in our group chat. Someone had leaked Blake's psychological evaluation to Reddit and it was going viral. The report said he had narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial features and showed no real remorse, just anger at getting caught. It said he was high risk for doing this again without serious help. His lawyer was trying to get it sealed, but screenshots were everywhere already. Tuesday brought the federal plea deal news through Patricia's office. Blake accepted 5 years federal prison to run at the same time as his state sentence. He had to pay $200,000 back to his firm and give up all the money from his illegal trades. Wednesday. I finally went back to Cycle Soul for Brittany's birthday ride. Walking into that studio felt scary at first, but then everyone started cheering. Someone new asked about our Blake's victims' tanks, and Natalie just said trust your gut and check their Bumble history. Thursday was sentencing day, and the courtroom was packed with reporters, our support group, and even some of Blake's coworkers. 7 of us read our victim impact statements while Blake sat there in his orange jumpsuit looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. The judge took a long break after hearing everything. When she came back, she sentenced him to 8 years total, 5 for federal crimes and 3 more for state charges. He'd have to serve at least 5 years before any chance of parole. The judge looked right at him and said he'd shown a pattern of predatory behavior and complete disregard for others. She said the sentence reflected how serious it was that he terrorized multiple women who just tried to leave unhealthy relationships. As the court officer started leading Blake away, he turned and mouthed, "This isn't over," right at me. The judge saw it happen and immediately added 6 months for contempt and continued intimidation. His lawyer literally threw his hands up and sat back down looking defeated. Outside the courthouse, our whole group hugged and cried together. Amy was sobbing with relief that it was finally over. Isabella made a joke through her tears about orange not being his color. Then Mrs. Leek walked over and hugged each one of us, whispering, "I'm sorry," to every single woman there. Friday, the civil trial happened way faster than expected since he'd already been convicted. Blake appeared on video from federal prison looking rough with dark circles under his eyes. The jury took less than 2 hours to award us $500,000 in damages collectively. Patricia explained that even though Blake didn't have that money now, the judgment would follow him forever. Any future earnings, inheritance, or assets could be seized to pay us. She said he'd never profit from the story and could never rebuild without accountability. It wasn't about the money for any of us, but about permanent consequences for what he did.